In the early 1700s, a bunch of outlaws, drunkards, and runaway sailors decided they were done taking orders. So they built their own country. No kings, no taxes, no rules. Just pirates, running Nassau like a floating democracy with cannons. When we picture pirates, we usually think Hollywood. Eye patches, parrots, maybe a bottle of rum permanently glued to one hand. Johnny Depp wobbling across a beach for no apparent reason. But the real pirates? They were sharper, stranger, and somehow better at self-government than most European monarchies. And in the early 1700s, they pulled off something almost no one talks about. They formed an actual functioning government on a tiny island in the Bahamas called Nassau. It lasted barely more than a decade, but for those years, it was one of the most radical, ahead of its time societies in history. And it scared the life out of the empires. Picture the Caribbean in the early 1700s. The water is an impossible blue, but the air is thick, hot, sticky, and heavy, with the scent of salt and rotting seaweed drifting in from the shallows. Britain, France, and Spain were locked in the War of the Spanish Succession. Basically, one giant who gets what brawl over the dying Spanish Empire's global treasure chest. Enter the privateers, pirates with permission slips. Governments gave them letters of marque, official documents that basically said, yes, please rob that French galleon, and no, we won't hang you for it. But in 1713, the war ended. Overnight, thousands of armed, sea-hardened men were unemployed. No pensions, no benefits, just an awkward conversation about maybe becoming a dock worker. Instead, they asked themselves, where can we keep doing what we're good at, without the pesky legal consequences? If you were a pirate looking for a home, New Providence Island was the jackpot. Sail into Nassau's harbor, and the first thing you'd notice is the smell. A heady mix of tarred ropes, fish drying in the sun, and the faint, sweet burn of molasses drifting from a ship's hold. The water here was deep enough to hide stolen ships from naval patrols, but calm enough that the only creaking came from the rigging swaying gently in the trade winds. The streets were dusty tracks, lined with weather-beaten shacks patched together from driftwood and ship planks. The British governor's mansion sat abandoned, its shutters banging in the breeze, a ready-made headquarters for anyone bold enough to claim it. And the best part? No functioning government. Just you, your crew, and whatever rules you decided to live by. Nassau wasn't chaos. It was organized chaos. No king, no parliament, no royal decrees. Instead, captains elected by their crews. Mess up too badly and you could be voted out mid-voyage. No ceremony, just a crew meeting under the shade of a patched sail. Loot shared equally. The coins clinked loud in your palm on payout day, their metal still warm from the sun. Workers' comp. Lose an arm? Expect a handshake, a shot of rum, and a pouch of gold. Compared to the British Navy's ration of maggoty biscuits and the smell of bilge water, Nassau's pirate code felt almost utopian. Every nation has its founding fathers. Nassau had Benjamin Hornigold, former privateer, part politician, part strategist. Always smelled faintly of pipe smoke and salt air. Charles Vane, hot-headed, eyes bright like he was permanently halfway to starting a fight, the air around him sharp with gunpowder and sweat. Calico Jack Rackham, breezy charm, flamboyant coats that caught the sunlight, and the faint jingle of stolen jewelry whenever he moved. Anne Bonny, fiery, quick to slam a tankard on the tavern table so hard rum sloshed onto the sticky floorboards. Her voice could cut through the chatter, the music, and the crash of waves on the shore. Mary Red, calm, deliberate, and lethal. Her boots always carried the smell of wet leather and the deck's salt spray. Step onto Nassau's main street at its peak, and the senses are instantly assaulted. Sound, the rhythmic creak of ship masts in the harbor, distant shouts in half a dozen languages, the metallic scrape of cutlasses being sharpened on the stoop. Smell, salt water mingling with gunpowder, frying fish, and the sharp bite of rum evaporating from spilled barrels. Touch, the humid air sticking your shirt to your back, the rough grain of a tavern bench under your palms, the warm weight of coins in your pocket. The harbor was a floating marketplace, barrels of sugar stacked alongside crates of muskets, silk spilling from torn chests, and merchants haggling loudly over stolen Spanish silver. Inside the taverns, the air was thick, tobacco smoke swirling under low beam-crossed ceilings, the sticky floor gripping your boots as music rattled from a corner fiddle. Someone always seemed to be laughing, swearing, or starting a brawl. And in the middle of it all, the pirate code acted like an unwritten constitution, keeping the whole noisy, dangerous experiment from collapsing. To Britain, Spain, and France, Nassau wasn't just a thorn in the side, it was a full-blown infection. It sat right on the main arteries of Atlantic trade, where the sound of creaking hulls meant gold, silver, sugar, and tobacco moving between continents. From here, pirates could, and did, pounce on treasure fleets, blockade ports, and vanish into the blue before the empires could react. By 1718, Britain had had enough. Enter Woodes Rogers, ex-privateer, dressed sharp, smelling faintly of gun oil and ambition. He arrived with warships, soldiers, and a tempting deal. Surrender and live. Hornigold accepted. Vane didn't, and the creak of his ships rigging in the wind was soon replaced by the groan of a gallows rope. Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, and Mary Red were taken soon after. The harbor that once rang with the hammer of carpenters patching hulls now echoed with the barked orders of Royal Navy officers. The Republic of Nassau burned bright and brief, less than a decade. But in that time it proved something dangerous. You could reject the crowns, ignore their laws, and live by your own code. It wasn't clean, it wasn't safe. It smelled like tar, sweat, rum, and defiance. For a fleeting moment, if you stood on Nassau's dock with the wind whipping in from the open sea, you could hear the creak of rigging, the rattle of coins, and the laughter of people who'd made a world of their own.